European football fans will no doubt be well aware of the name Mathieu Flamini. The tenacious French midfielder spent a large portion of his career in England with Arsenal, but also won Serie A in Italy with AC Milan. However, there is a more intriguing side of the career of Flamini, one which is less well known, which has turned the three-time FA Cup winner into a billionaire. Yes, with a B. Today we're discussing the incredible career of Mathieu Flamini, so stay with us. Flamini started out playing for hometown club Marseille, having played for more than a decade in their youth teams during the 90s. Somewhat infuriatingly for the club from the south of France, he would leave them just a year after turning pro, as Marseille were unable to tie him down to a long-term contract due to his age. During this time, Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger was renowned for his apparent production line of young French talent, and Flamini was regarded as yet another gem Wenger had unearthed. Of course, with players such as Ray Parlour, Kanu, and David Bentley all leaving the club in 2004, Wenger was looking towards the future and rebuilding his midfield in a bid to hang on to the league title his Invincibles had just won. Unfortunately, that wouldn't materialise, and still hasn't for the Gunners, but in Flamini, they had found a player who would go on to become something of a cult hero at the Emirates. His spell in North London, which saw the young Frenchman play over 100 times for the famous old club, also brought with it relative success. An FA Cup triumph in his first season was followed the season after by narrowly missing out on the Champions League, as Arsenal blew a 1-0 lead by conceding twice late on. By 2008, Flamini was viewed as a solid pro, having just won Arsenal's Player of the Year award. But when AC Milan came calling, there wasn't much of a decision to make. I mean, this was AC Milan, right? Flamini exchanged North London for Northern Italy, which would bring with it a chance encounter which would change the Marseille native's life. Having barely been in Milan 2 minutes, Flamini had been introduced to a man named Pasquale Granata, a non-footballing man who shared Mathieu's love of all things nature and environment. This meeting would go down as arguably the most important in his career. Growing up, Milan's new central midfield enforcer had always been interested in the environment, saying in a 2015 interview, "I was always close to nature and concerned about environmental issues, climate change and global warming." He, Pasquale, was on the same wavelength. We were looking at how we could make a contribution to the problem. And contribute they did. With Flamini performing to a high level with AC, the pair founded a company called GF Biochemicals. The G standing for Granata and the F, well, you guessed it, Flamini. Now, footballers who are known to have side hustles are often criticised for taking their eye off the ball and maybe devoting too much time to their new endeavours while still in the employ of their clubs. This is an accusation which cannot be levelled at Mathieu Flamini, who played 23 league games in Milan's 2010-11 league-winning season. Not a bad few years for the Frenchman, I think you'll agree. Whilst his new business was still taking shape, Flamini was keeping it all under wraps, probably for the reasons we've just mentioned. He didn't want to be accused of not giving his all to the Milan cause. When he first met Granata, the two were unsure about what route they would want to pursue. They just knew that they wanted to do something to aid the environment. Flamini puts his business success down to being in the right place at the right time. He freely admits to exploring possibilities in different sectors including energy, chemical and recycling before meeting with a team of scientists in Milan. The result was GF Biochemicals. But what exactly do they do, we hear you cry? Well, without getting all scientific, they basically take biomass or agricultural waste to the layperson and turn it into levulinic acid. Into what now? Levulinic acid is an environmentally friendly alternative to petrochemicals, so you can probably imagine just how valuable this field will become in the next few years as the world attempts to move towards becoming more green. The product is thought to be able to replace petrochemicals in a wide range of products across various industries, making it highly sought after. As we know, lots of countries and industries around the world are turning towards carbon neutrality, and the fact that levulinic acid can reduce CO2 by up to 80% shows its huge potential. Flamini, though, was in his footballing prime at this point, but sadly, a freak training ground injury ruled him out for the entire 2011-12 season, and it appeared as though his time in Italy was up as it was announced he would be leaving with the expiration of his contract at the end of the 2012 season. Just a few weeks later, Flamini and the Rossoneri higher-ups agreed terms on an extension, with the Frenchman signing significantly reduced wages. Not that that would matter. More on that in a bit. A year later, Flamini would return to his spiritual home of Arsenal, where he would spend another 3 seasons, winning 2 more FA Cups. But by this time, GF Chemicals was really beginning to take shape. During an interview last year, he explained that people are often surprised at how long he's been involved with the company, considering they haven't really heard about it. He went on to say that it takes so long because we had to develop the technology and then process it on an industrial scale. The company are one of only a handful across the world who are producing levulinic acid to replace oil in day-to-day products, so it's hardly surprising that a lot of research, time and effort was needed to get it right. Flamini sometimes laments his business pursuits though, claiming that he's quite impatient so wants results immediately. I mean, you're possibly in the wrong sector then, Matthew. Somewhat tongue-in-cheek, he suggests that he may have been better off just developing an app. However, all that hard work has paid off. In 2015, with Flamini fresh off the back of another FA Cup triumph, the company were handed the John Syme Award for Most Innovative New Technology, and just a year later, they would acquire American company Richest. Nowadays, they employ around 400 people at plants in Caserta, Italy, the Netherlands, and Minneapolis. But all this excitement wasn't enough for Flamini just to call it quits on his day job. At the end of the 2016 season, he signed for Crystal Palace on a one-year deal, before heading to Getafe at the end of that season to see out his playing career. Flamini would play 18 times for the Spanish outfit before calling it a day in 2019. From the outside looking in, it is a testament to the man that during most of his playing career, he had 2 full-time jobs. Most players complain about training for 2 or 3 hours a day, or the fact that they have to play 2 games a week whilst collecting their £200,000 every 7 days. Not Flamini though, and his efforts paid off for him in a big way. Since ending his playing days, GF Chemicals has simply exploded, in a good way. It is now thought that both Flamini and Granata are worth somewhere in the neighbourhood of 10 to 12 billion pounds each. Flamini himself credits his professional career as a footballer as one in which gave him the opportunity to explore other avenues. As we mentioned earlier, football is a full-time job, but not really. After finishing his workday in the afternoon, he was free to do whatever he pleased. Whilst other players were playing video games or doing other things, he wanted to do things that stimulate my intellect, as he put it. The company also benefited from the £8.5 million a year Milan were paying him, which was enough to get them up and running. The French international actually kept the business a secret during its infancy. As we know, people tend to be a little judgmental, so Flamini simply wanted to keep the heat off himself. He also admits that he had no idea what direction the company would head in during those days, or if it would even be a success at all. Flamini also revealed that even though he was trying to do a good, positive thing for the environment, people in that sector would see him as a footballer and try to test him to see if he would actually be able to deliver what he said he would. Whilst Mathieu Flamini would probably never been considered a truly elite world-class player, he does have a truly elite mindset. The mental fortitude it takes to become a successful businessman while still playing football professionally is something that only a select few are blessed with. The self-confessed David Attenborough fan isn't simply happy with GF Chemicals though. A few years back, he started a skincare company with former teammate Mesut Ozil, as well as starting an online magazine called The Bio Journal. So how does he deal with the stresses and strains in the cutthroat world of business? Well, he points out that he's been prepared for this from his childhood. Flamini believes that 70% of sport is mental, which stands him in good stead for his assault on the world of business. He says that the two go almost hand in hand, as in professional sports. You're taught that you win or you learn, but you never lose, which he points out is the same principles of business. The 39-year-old also credits his former manager Arsene Wenger for shaping his mindset, revealing that Wenger's way of doing things was all about togetherness and a positive mindset. Incredibly, Flamini is now thought to be worth almost 10 times as much as Cristiano Ronaldo, which is actually mind-blowing when you sit down and think about it. If only more footballers would put their massive fortunes into making the world a better place, like Mathieu Flamini has, then maybe they'd be viewed a little more favourably. As usual, thanks for stopping by today, and remember to tune in next time when we'll be discussing more interesting topics. And why not do us a solid by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Bye guys!